Good evening. District 208 Board of Education will come to order. Can we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Nardi, you can take the roll, please.
Mr. Durkin, Ms. Gasko.
Here.
Ms. Ruska.
Here.
Ms. Slack. Mr. Novak.
Here.
Mr. Van Horn.
Here.
And Ms. Salas.
Here. And Dr. Freitas, we have recognitions this evening, correct?
Yes. Good evening, honorable board members of District 208. Congratulations to Connor Fouts, who has qualified as a semifinalist in the 2025 National Merit Scholarship Program. Connor is one of more than 16,000 high school seniors nationwide who are semifinalists, which are students who score in the top 1% of the PSAT. We are so proud of Connor's hard work and dedication to be recognized as a National Merit semifinalist. I would like to call up Connor Fouts. Congratulations. Connor, we would like to invite you and your family outside to take a picture, okay? And before that, if any board members or superintendent have any comments?
I just want to say congratulations. It's an incredible accomplishment. I don't think we had any semifinalists last year, so this is a really a proud moment for the district. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
RBTV and Mr. Holdren received a Best Practices Award from the Des Plaines Valley Region School College Alliance. They received the award for their sports activities media days. Congratulations to Matt Holdren and RBTV for their commitment to ensuring RBTV remains one of the best high school TV programs in the country. Ms. Holdren cannot be with us this evening. He couldn't be with us.
If I can add a note to that, I happened to be at the meeting where he received that award, and I will just say that there were seven total districts there, and everyone was pretty amazed by the media day that is done, and that kind of led off to what RBTV is. So congratulations to Mr. Holdren and all the students that make that possible. It was great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramos. The RB Library received a Lincoln's Reader's Choice Award grant from IO and the Library Book Selection Services, LBBS, Endowment Fund. This grant provides the RB Library with a set of 20 books that are nominated for the 2025 Lincoln Award, or the Illinois Teen Reader's Choice Award. Riverside Brookfield High School is one of the 15 Illinois high schools that received this grant. I would like to acknowledge our media specialist, Ms. Amy Phillips. Ms. Phillips, I don't know if you'd like to say a few comments or anything. We're really proud of you.
Oh, thanks. I think this is the second time that we've received this grant, and it's really nice to get some extra materials for our students.
Do you have any idea of what the names are of the?
Oh yeah. So the list it is a Teen Reader's Choice Award put on by the Association of Illinois School Library Educators, and the list always comes out each March for the following year. So all these books are prominently displayed in our front entrance to our library. Students can check them out immediately, and the program is that if students read 3 of the nominated titles, they can vote for their favorite, which would then get put in with all the rest of teens in the state who were able to vote to then decide the winner of the eventual award.
Great. I'll check it out. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Picture outside with our student board members, okay? Thank you, Ms. Phillips. The class of 2024 had an 82% FAFSA completion rate, which is Arby's highest yet. This earned our school a silver medal from the Illinois Student Assistance Commission. This accomplishment when I have been possible with our amazing counselors who helped the class of 2024 complete their FAFSA forms. Thank you for all your hard work to ensure our students' success. Our counselors couldn't be here this evening, but I would like to recognize them: Ms. Melissa Carey, Mr. Paul Emerson, Mr. Jim Franco, Ms. Lisa Guzman, Mr. Mike Reingruber, Ms. Sarah Sanchez, and Ms. Renee Thomas.
Thank you.
And I would like to recognize our leader of our Student Services Department, our Assistant Principal, Ms. Beth Augustine. Thank you, Ms. Augustine.
Knowing all the challenges with the FAFSA last year, this is a big accomplishment, so thank you to the whole team.
And with that, board members, that concludes the recognition portion of the agenda.
Thank you. Student Association, please come on up. Just want to introduce yourselves again. We've only met you the one time, and let us know what's going on.
My name is Lucy Drun. I'm the president of the executive board. I'm Caitlin Klein. I'm the director of communications.
I'm Samantha Gibbs. I'm the treasurer. As you might know, a little over a week ago, our happiest homecoming on earth, or Disney-themed homecoming, came to a close on September 14th. It was a huge success, not only for the dance itself, but the festivities leading up to it. We got a bunch of positive feedback, including having the dance outside, the DJ, which has been a point of contention in the past, as well as a ton of people saying how much they enjoyed the photo booth.
Our Spirit Week went really well. We had a lot of student and staff participation in our 6 Disney-themed days. The pep rally went very smoothly with great performances from cheer and poms, as well as the marching band bringing everyone in. We had student and staff involvement in musical chairs and our relay race, which was really exciting for everyone in the stands to watch. And RBTV made another amazing video to show off school spirit that we watched. We heard a lot of positive feedback regarding both our Spirit Week and our pep rally, and we hope to continue with that momentum moving forward.
Looking ahead, we have a ton of exciting events planned for the rest of the fall semester, just to name a few. Coming up soon, we have the World Smile Day, which is in collaboration with Best Buddies here at RB. That'll be on October 4th. And those students are encouraged to wear yellow, bright colors, and anything with smiley faces just to encourage positivity. At the end of next month, we'll also have our first blood drive of the year on October 29th. Then in November, we have our annual Veterans Day Assembly, and to go with that, we do our annual Cards for the Veterans, which will then be delivered to Hines Hospital before the upcoming holiday season. We also have our Thanksgiving baskets and our coat and blanket drives that we run every year. Those will close out the semester as usual. The Thanksgiving baskets will be donated to CSS, and the coat and blanket and all the winter gear to the Salvation Army. So we have a jam-packed few months ahead, and we're really excited to work with the staff, students, and the rest of the community. Thank you for having us this evening. Before we leave, any questions about homecoming or upcoming events?
Sounds like it was fun.
It's a great time.
Yep.
guys.
Thank you. Great weather.
Keep up the good work.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for all the work you're doing.
Okay, there's no president's report. We have a superintendent's report.
Superintendent's report.
Tell us what page, very quickly. Oh, thank you.
Yes. On the agenda, page 5, 6. School safety. The district has received some general inquiries from stakeholders in light of all the events in the news related to school safety and online threats. District 208 continuously reviews safety procedures. The administration works closely with the local police departments when reviewing and revising our crisis response manual. The high school is up to date with all our required drills and training. We have 3 retired police officers on staff in our security team. Ed Petrick currently serves as our school safety and security officer on campus, and he does concealed carry. And the district is working with the Board of Education to add a second school safety security officer. So I feel that we're doing all the proper measures. We do annual reviews, annual drills. The administration attends regular workshops. So it's a ever-evolving landscape, but we're continuing to work through those things. Solar panels, Dr. Smetana is negotiating the contract terms with the board. Approved vendor Verde. The goal is to have a final contract available for the Board of Education by the October meeting. So working cash bonds, BMO Harris was the only bank to submit a bid on the bonds. The total debt service on the private placement was about $5,000 less than the public sale. So President Zalis and Dr. Smetana approved the bid as our advisor Elizabeth Hennessy recommended. Sewer repair. So if you haven't noticed, there's a couple horses on the bike path, construction horses on the bike path on First Avenue near the corner of First and Forest. A small sinkhole has developed near the First Avenue bike path. It was determined that the cause is most likely a cracked sewer pipe coming from the school or from the manhole to the First Avenue sewer. We have our plumber and sewer contractor working on this. The one concern we are monitoring is if the pipe cracked off on the manhole connection to First Avenue. That might be a more elaborate repair. If that's the case, it could become something that we have to consider submitting an insurance claim on. So they're supposed to start towards the end of this week. So Dr. Freitas and Ms. Fletcher will put out communications to family for those students that use the First Avenue bike path to see if you can avoid it for a day or two while this gets repaired. Culinary lab, construction of the culinary lab is progressing nicely. The rooftop unit was delivered this past weekend. It's in the process of being installed, which is a significant milestone for the project. The goal is to have the space open and available for classes before the end of the first semester. Only advisory council pending is the Press Policy Council. Advisory Council and Ms. Nardi sent out a doodle today, or is going to meet with some of the two board members today to figure out what dates work for them. And that is the superintendent's report. Oh, one last point. I did attend today. My attendance was requested for the district to send a representative. North Riverside, the village of North Riverside is doing a strategic planning meeting. So I attended as the district's rep. They did extend an invitation to Ms. Gaska as a resident and board member. So Ms. Gaska also attended. But it was mostly, I think, just today's session was focused on strategic partners and just how our relationship is with the village and some fact-finding on things that are important with our relationship with the village. And that concludes my superintendent report.
Any questions or comments from the board? No? Seeing none, Dr. Smetana.
Good evening. Tonight I'll provide the board with financial information through the month of August, which is 16% of our fiscal year. I'll begin with the monthly summary report, which shows that the operating revenue for the month was $7,005,845, with 94% of that coming from CPPRT and local property tax, 5% coming from evidence-based funding, which is our state funding, and 1% coming from registration fees. The total operating expenditures for the month were $2,901,981, with 69% towards salary and benefits, 8% towards building level supplies, primarily software that we purchased for the entire school year, and then 7% for operations and maintenance. On board with page 10, you'll see the summary of the revenue shows that the district has received 34.2% of our budgeted revenue for this year. This amount is higher significantly than last fiscal year, but that's just due to the timing of property tax. The summary of expenditure shows that the district has spent 18.7% of our budgeted expenditures for this year, and this amount is slightly lower than this time last fiscal year. As always, I included the statement of revenues and expenditures for all of the board accounts, as well as the activity accounts for the month of August. And then I have a few other additional items tonight as well. Every year at this time, I provide the annual compensation reports for certified staff as well as non-certified staff. That is over $75,000. It's required by the state that I post them on the district's website, but I always provide them to the board first as an FYI. The next item is I provided a detailed list of the itemized expenses that the district pays for the township treasurer, and then I compared that to the cost if we were to go independent. The first is salary and benefit.
Hold on, Ms. Nardi, can you go back to the original memo?
Sorry, I believe that's page 8 maybe?
I think it's probably
Maybe
just easier.
7?
Yeah, I think she was.
Probably just easier to stay on the memo.
So very quickly, Dr. Smith, thank you for doing this. I appreciate you doing the deep dive on the township treasurer.
So we take 6.5%. We pay 6.5% of the total township expenses. And so salary and benefits would increase because we would have to hire a controller. And reaching out to other districts that have a controller, starting salary would be around $80,000, and then paying for benefits. The annual IV license, which is our financial software that we use, that would be a big additional expense. If we pay $10,000 right now, we get a huge discount for buying as an entire group. So we would have to pay $90,000 for that. Plus, we would lose the additional support, so we'd have to pay for the support portion, and I didn't get a price on that. Our audit would go up just a little bit. We'd save a little bit of money on the building rental and telephone. We'd pay a little extra in getting our own bond. It's a certain percentage of your expenditures. Office expenses would be roughly, a little lower, about the same. The third-party investment services, so that'd be a percent of the investment income, and it depends on which investments they make. There's there's often a range, like if they invest in a CD, you get a certain percentage of that. They get a certain percentage of that versus investing in other things. So that's a rough estimate, but also the interesting part that I learned about third-party investment services is they dictate which banks they work with, and so they would be dictating which banks the district would have to have a relationship with. So one of the biggest ones, biggest third-party investment service requires that you use BMO Harris, and we don't have a relationship with them, so we would have to set up all of our accounts over there. So that would be a huge undertaking as well. And then, as I've previously said too, additional cash flow would dictate our investments. And so right now, we don't have to worry about our cash flow in terms of our investments, but for example, the year where Cook County delayed the property tax till January, we literally were down to pennies. And so the district would not have been able to invest in CDs at that point. But the township treasurer, because all the money is pooled together, we were able to still receive a significant amount of interest on investment that year because we didn't have to worry about cash flow. The township treasurer looks at cash flow as a whole for a situation like that affects all the districts.
No, I think this is really good to have as a baseline as the next couple of years proceed, and if people do decide to avail themselves of the legislation, I think this is a really good exercise, so I appreciate you having gone through it.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Additionally, on another point, the district's liability insurance expires in December, and I've been working with our agent to fill out all the applications. However, we were required to have a mandatory property assessment, and this required assessment increased the district's property values by roughly $72 million. And so I just wanted to bring it to the board's attention because I have no doubt that's going to raise our rates for our liability insurance. So I wanted to call that to your attention now, so when we bring it in December, you won't necessarily be hopefully as shocked when you see that increase.
It is natural for it to go up. The question I kind of wondered is that it's got to be a trend across the board. That's not just our district.
It
and is it economically driven or is it assets driven? Or a little bit of both?
A little bit of both. We haven't probably had an assessment in, I'd say, 8 years at least, because we haven't had one since I've been in this role, and I don't think we had one right before COVID either. So it's definitely been a while. So I think it's a combination of that as well as the market.
What did they assess that the largest increase was? I mean, is it because we redid all the stadium and those buildings? I mean, is there roofs, or there's additions?
It's building
like
and
what?
content, right? They did content.
It's building and content, and it was more comprehensive than the previous assessment had been.
And I would
for
just
sure.
add, I mean, from my day job, the marketplaces, I'm
Right.
seeing double-digit increases.
Right.
It's really a,
I wasn't shocked, but it's a lot.
Not just double digit, it's
Mm-hmm.
42%.
yes.
And then lastly, what Ms. Nardi was showing you before, the last item is I just included for the board a draft of the working cash tax-exempt bond proceed transfer that I'll be asking the board to approve at the next meeting. I wanted you all to see it before I'd ask you to approve it, but once we get the bond proceeds, we need to transfer them to O&M and then to capital projects That's a requirement from the state that they go through O&M and then transfer to capital projects. I verified that with the auditor. So I wanted to include it just so that you could see it before I was asking you to approve it at the next meeting. And if there are no other questions, that concludes my report for tonight.
Any other comments, questions from anyone? No? Seeing none, thank you. Dr. Freitas.
Good evening, Honorable Board. The first two reports, Class Under 20 and Transfer Student Report, are in my principal's report. And for the first Classes Under 20, it's a very standard report that the board receives every year. And beforehand, I just want to thank the board for consideration in approving Classes Under 20. You know, all divisions are represented, all general education divisions, STEM, CTE, and humanities. So really thank you to the board for considering your approval. For the transfer report, you know, and this we have to recognize our assistant superintendent. And our projected enrollment for this year was 1673, and our September enrollment is 1672. That's
So
how
she was off by one, is what you're
by
saying?
one.
Okay.
That's how. I
It's just a
mean,
good year. We just got lucky.
but I just want to thank her for those details. In October 9th, juniors who chose it will be taking the PSAT and MSQT exam. On October 24th, we will have our annual parent-teacher conferences online via Zoom, where parents will have an opportunity to sign up. On October 30th, we will have the practice ACT for juniors. Testing will be in the morning, and then the juniors will go back to classes in the afternoon. Under school culture and operations, tomorrow at 9 a.m., we have coffee with the principal. All the community is invited. In response to feedback from our community, a need to better understand our academic opportunities and course selection process, RB will host on October 2nd our second Parent University, where we will talk about early college credit opportunities, our curriculum, and our course selection process. It's from 6 to 7 in the auditorium. We will have counselors, teachers, assistant principals, everybody there. So everyone who's listening to this is encouraged to come to understand those three areas, because every year we get a lot of questions regarding those areas. The first quarter ends on October 11th. On October 14th, it is a non-attendance day. It is Columbus Indigenous People Day. On the 11th, as mentioned earlier, we will have our annual Veterans Day ceremony. Our veterans will be here from the morning to the early afternoon, having breakfast with us, being honored at an assembly, and then serving as speakers to our students when they do their classroom visits. For activities and athletics, this past September 20th, we had boys soccer senior night. It was 5-2. The crowd was exciting. So many seniors to recognize. It was a great day to be a Bulldogs. Congratulations to the boys soccer program. On the 23rd, just yesterday, we had girls golf senior night. It was wonderful to see parents, fathers play with their daughters. And that was their inspiration. I asked the girls, who got you? My dad, my family. So it was a beautiful day, and a big shout out to Coach Scholes and Coach Rec for that. Girls swimming senior night happened today. Again, very exciting. I believe we're competing against South Elgin, the Storm. So great day to be a Bulldog. Several seniors were recognized just an hour before this board meeting. Girls tennis senior night unfortunately had to be postponed due to the weather, but we'll make sure we get that in the books so they can have their moments. On October 4th, we have a boys football band, pom cheers, and hip hop night senior night, 7:15 p.m. at our stadium, the Canelli Athletic Complex. And that concludes my principal's report. And for me, I would like to hand it over to our student advisors to the Board of Education.
Well, thank you guys. I hope you guys are having a great night. So I just wanted to start off with the teaching and learning. So with September, just kind of giving you guys a quarter one academic kind of reflection. So far for me and Emma as well, the quarter has been going really smoothly, just with all of our classes getting settled into senior year. So good grades so far. Everything has been going good with kind of easing, like I said, back into our classes, electives, and things like that. So it's been going extremely well. As well with college application updates. So I know a lot of seniors right now are in the process of applying, especially anyone who's doing early action, early decision. For me personally, right now, I'm submitting 3 of my applications to my top 3 schools within the next 2 weeks. So that'll be something that, I'm looking forward to and everything like that. But yeah, so moving on to school culture and operations. So for September, on the 26th is senior portraits. So for any seniors that haven't taken their senior photos yet, so that's going to be in the blended learning room in 255. The attire is formal. You want to look good for your senior photos and everything. And that'll be at 3:30 p.m., so right after school. Moving on to activities and athletics. So during September, homecoming reflection, I know Emma and I both attended, and it kind of like what Student Association said, it was a very successful with their events and with the dance and with the pep rally and with everything that they had planned for the homecoming week. Like I said, so the pep, kind of like they mentioned, they had the pep rally where they had all the games with staff and students, with the marching band, RBTV making an amazing video, with the homecoming football game. I know that was the Friday before around 7:15 for varsity, and I know the theme was neon as well. So yeah, so that was another really fun activity for homecoming, as well as the homecoming week penny pinch, which is where grade levels, they compete with each other, and all of the donations are donated to an organization locally. So yeah, and then for the second, the National Honor Society Halloween Bake Sale, the date is to be determined, but it will definitely happen at least some point between late September or the beginning of October. As well, so for the 25th is National Honor Society applications. So this is kind of for anyone who did miss the deadline back in May. They can go ahead and apply again to join the National Honor Society. And then kind of adding on to that, so for anyone who is a National Honor Society, NHS tutoring is available during lunches and after school, Monday through Thursday, for students who are feeling stumped with homework or needing just kind of some extra coursework help for their classes. And then also the 30th is the Spanish National Honor Society application. So very similar to NHS, but just with tutoring for students who are in heritage speakers or students who are in lower Spanish classes as well. And then moving on to October. So October 10th is the Fall Choir Concert. So that'll be at 7 p.m. in the auditorium. Then the 23rd is the Fall Band and Orchestra Concert, and that'll be at 7 p.m. in the auditorium as well. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Emma. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia.
Thank you, Olivia. Good evening, Honorable Board. I'll start off with teaching and learning for my report today. For September, like Olivia said, for our Q1 academic reflection, we have eased into the new year. It's our senior year, and it's been almost a roller coaster of experiences with school, college applications, and it's been such a fun, stressful experience as well. But moving on to college applications, I am currently working on my supplements, and similar to other students as well, we're working through the process, and I know early action deadlines and early decisions deadlines are coming up fast on October 15th, November 1st, or November 15th for many students. Moving on to school culture and operation, on September, between the 16th and the 20th, the Organization of Latin American Students hosted their Hispanic Heritage Week. The 15th of September marks the beginning of Hispanic Heritage Month, and to kick off that month, on Monday the 16th, we hosted our almost a collaboration with Student Association with Sueños, which translates to Dreams, Sweet Dreams Day, where we asked students to wear their PJs or their college shirt to follow their dreams, similar to SA's Pajama Day. On the 17th, we hosted Tropical Tuesday, where we asked students to wear their beach wear. And on Wednesday, the 18th, we hosted Piñata Day. We asked students to wear their most brightest colors in their closets, and we even had a piñata after school that day. On the 19th, we had Bandera Day. We asked all the students to wear their country's colors. Personally, I wore mine, red, white, and green for Mexico. And on the 20th, for Friday, we had one of our most popular days, Vaquero Viernes, so we asked students to dress like a cowboy or a cowgirl. And moving on to September 16th, we had a college essay workshop. I personally attended that workshop, and it was a very insightful and rewarding experience. The The session was hosted by a University of Chicago admissions officer, Jane Hobson, and we had the opportunity to look over essays as well as think about what we wanted to convey through our essays as well. And on the 24th, tonight we have a college planning tips for senior session, which begun at 6:30 p.m. and it's at the auditorium. And in addition to that, between the 10th and 31st of September, college representatives from different colleges came in to talk a little bit about their colleges to give students an insight into what their college life is like in their colleges. And in October, between the 14th and the 18th, there is Fine Arts Week, where all of the fine arts students work together to share their art and gain recognition for that as well. And also college representative visits continue between the 1st and the 23rd of October as well. And now moving on to activities and athletics. On September 5th, the Asian Student Association hosted their first club meeting. This is a new club this year. It was established by Miss Pushpa Winbush, and it's to honor the richness of Asian culture. On the 29th, the Student Association will host a blood drive, and that will occur throughout the entire school day between 7:15 a.m. and 3 p.m., and that will be located in the East Gym. And in November, between the 14th and the 17th, there will be a fall play, Shakespeare in Love. Times for that will be on Thursday, Friday, Saturday at 7 p.m. and Sunday at 2 p.m. Currently, for between September and October, there have been rehearsals in preparation for the play, and that concludes my report.
Thank you
Nice
for
job.
all the information.
Thank you very
and
much.
good luck to you both. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I just said thank you very much.
Yeah, no, and good luck to you both as you look like you're both on the early action, early deadline train, so that's a lot. Good luck.
Thank you.
Honorable board members, now I would like to invite two of our assistant principals, Mr. Dave Mann, Assistant Principal for Student Affairs, and Mr. Phil Torres, Assistant Principal for Athletics, who will present the first half of our annual school district performance meeting. Mr. Mann, Mr. Torres, the floor is yours.
You can read that page number because I can't. 46.
Actually, it starts on 44 as the year.
Okay, thank you.
So what's the first performance indicator is average daily attendance. Mr. Mannon?
Good evening. Today I will provide a summary of the 23-24 school year as it relates to our average daily attendance and engagement performance indicators. Looking at our data from last school year, overall average daily attendance was 92.3%, which is slightly down from the 92.6% that we held last school year. The goal for this performance indicator is 95%, so our department has been working hard to communicate to students their attendance on a consistent and frequent basis. We saw that work started at our residency events in July, where we provided every student and their family with a report of their attendance from the previous year, including their tardy report as well. The deans continue to meet with our students who have tardies during this current school year and unverified absences during the school year on a daily basis during lunch periods in the cafeteria, and we'll be sending an attendance update to all families at the end of first quarter. We also held a family back night that kind of gave parents an introduction and reacclimation, if they needed it, to our Skyward portal and how to call in attendance when needed. Looking closer at our ADA from last year, we saw a 300-day increase in the number of illnesses reported last school year. In addition to the illnesses, we also saw an increase in our mental health days reported. We did provide a chart there, and from looking at the chart, we had a total of 1,127 mental health days reported. From that, we broke it down per day. So 245 students took 1 day, 143 for 2 days, 54 for 3 days, 45 for 4 days, and 25 for 5 days. There were some that took a partial day here and there, and then others that wanted to extend their 5 days and go into 6, which is counted as an unexcused, and we only allowed it 5 by the state.
Mr. Mannon, do you have this by any chance broken out by class year?
I do, yeah. And so looking at that, our heaviest, I think, grade level that took advantage of the mental health days was our seniors, and some of that could be correlated with other activities that they may have done that day. that they utilize the mental health day. We do follow up and check in on that. It's just how we coded it. But 430 days from the senior class, 228 from the junior class, 240 from the sophomore class, and 229 from the freshman class from last
It's
year.
almost double for
Yeah.
seniors.
Correct.
I was going to say interesting, but I don't.
Yeah, it has been
may not be the
increasing
right
as
word.
students become more accustomed to the access that they have been granted from the states. Unfortunately, as all schools are suffering, is that this counts against our school attendance and our average
Yeah,
percentage.
and is there any discussion about eliminating that from the school attendance metric?
Not that I know of, but I am a part of like a weekly attendance network, and then we do have bi-weekly meetings in which we kind of like collaborate on how can we kind of curb some of the chronic use of the mental health days. We want to obviously extend that to students that need that support, but we do want to follow up. I think this year more than ever, because we see the increase as to what are we utilizing for. Let's get the actual like what the purpose is, and then how can we flood them with support so we can get them in school. That's our goal. As far as any other questions for the attendance report, averaging where we're at, we're stating I think this is like where we're going to be at going forward. I should mention that as well, and we're pretty consistent with where other schools are at. I will mention, as you see it, the report card coming out here at the end of the school year, we're about 19% with our truancy rate. And that would, or sorry, our absentee rate, so that's students over 10 days. And we're lower than a many amount of schools that are in our neighboring area here. So that's great, but we want to continue to bring that number down going forward. Our next report, which I'll share with Phil here, Athletic Director, is our engagement report. And this is a report we're really excited to share out on. Our student engagement activities and athletics, this is a combined report, and percentage came in at 75%, which exceeded our annual goal. Our most significant increase from students participating was 3 or more athletic activity events in all grade levels. Our goal, I should mention, is 70%. Our freshmen reported the highest amount of students participating in extracurricular activities at 79%, which is fantastic. It's pretty much similar to what we're at each year. The sophomore class at 76%, we saw a big increase there. The senior class, I think, is where we saw our most significant growth at 71%, and our sophomore class at 68%. We spoke to all of our grade levels at our meetings and our assemblies at the start of the year and actually pointed this out and had students stand up to show the percentages of kids involved in activities. It was a really cool event for kids to see, especially to shine a light on our sophomores at 76%. And they were pretty shocked that like only a corner, a sliver of the auditorium was not participating. And then, hey, let's get you involved. So that was great. Several factors contributed to the engagement success, and I always turn it back to our sponsors. I always turn it back to our staff because it comes from their creativity along with our students and their just passion for different events. So last year we had program startups such as the mariachi band, symphonic orchestra, and then also baking and pastry, which had an average of 100 students in attendance on their monthly meetings, and they did different events that correlated it to different themes throughout the school year. So baking and pastry had a great year, and then mariachi band and symphonic orchestra also had some performances in the community and represented RB in a great fashion. So, and this year we've already started out, as you just heard, with our Asian Student Association. So we have a lot more along their way. I think tonight maybe you'll hear too about an auto tech club as well. So they continue to come out, and we continue to support kids that are not engaged currently. At the end of the year, I should mention too, we held our first fine and applied arts signing ceremony, and we'll continue to do that. We're kind of running on athletics coattails with their signing ceremony, but these are for students that are going into applied or fine art areas in college. We wanted to recognize them. We did a signing ceremony for them at the end of the school year. And we are working hard to transition, I think, just add another outlet for our activities to be recognized onto our 8-18 or our SNAP site, what is called now, the site that Athletic uses. So you should be seeing all of our activities recognized under that website. And in the near future, we're going to be really excited to represent an application called FanX. I won't give away too much, but we're working to get an app so that all of our activities in athletics are on one app, and you can see schedules and calendars and events and things like that. So we're working hard to do that. So
Yeah, I noticed the QR code poster when you first walk in the building. I think that's a simple but nice improvement, right? So you can scan it and see what you may be interested in.
In terms of sports, if you look at the athletic participation from last year, obviously that's gone up. In doing some digging, as obviously I wasn't here last year, doing some digging, it looks like girls wrestling numbers in our dance program kind of exploded last year, and it continues to explode this year. And then boys soccer continues to grow. We have over 90 boys involved in soccer this year alone. So those numbers are continuing to grow. We currently, for this fall, already have 563 athletes registered for fall sports, which is more than 30 than last year. So I think kids are definitely beyond this COVID that kind of hit the numbers of sports. And we're starting to see kids that got the middle school sports and got sports back are coming here now wanting to play sports, so it continues to grow. In terms of keeping to grow those numbers, obviously we're in a new conference, a conference I'm familiar with the Upstate 8. We did add a level of sophomore volleyball this year, and we look to continue to grow to align all our sports and levels as best we can with our new conference to align with them because they have these levels, so it's just more opportunities for our kids to grow and participate. Any questions in terms of athletics?
Any questions from anyone on the board? No comments? Thank you. This is actually your first presentation to us, so
it's great to see the increase in numbers.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Torres. Thank you, Mr. Allen.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Now I would like to invite Ms. Kylie Lindquist, Assistant Principal Curriculum and Instruction, Ms. Beth Augustine, Assistant Principal of Student Services, and Mr. Kevin Valdez, Director of Special Education, who will present the next metrics: freshmen on track, college and career readiness, four-year graduation rate, and the National Clearinghouse data.
We want to change our, no, I appreciate that. We want to change our format here, so. All right, good evening, everyone.
Hello.
All right, so I will start with performance indicator number 3, freshmen on track. So our FOT is up a little bit from last year. We are up 0.76%. Not much, but we will take it. So we have, the state considers 12 now sophomores that are not on track. I provided you with the demographics and kind of looking at their profile and what are some of the primary factors that are impacting their academic performance. Attendance seems to really be the primary factor, just kind of not coming to school and figuring out a way of getting them to school. These students seem to have a lot of emotional dysregulation as well. And, you know, in kind of looking at, is there a lack of foundational skill? That doesn't really seem to be the primary concern. I think math is probably the area that these students seem to struggle the most. In running their transcripts, 2 of the 12 have already made up those credits through summer school, so that's promising. What will we continue to do for these particular students and students in the future? The DNF list is always our primary intervention. I did look at present time. We only have 2 freshmen who would be considered not on track, currently failing more than 2 classes. But attendance, you know, Mr. Mannon already spoke what they're doing to monitor attendance. Student Services and Dean's Office work very closely, making tapestry referrals as early as possible. That's the partnership that we have with West 40. They really do a great job with interventions and being able to go to homes, make house visits if necessary, if students are not coming to school. And I think those early interventions, particularly with freshmen, are incredibly important. If students are showing those school refusal tendencies, trying to get the supports, making appropriate referrals, and then just utilizing our MTSS procedures and interventions as quickly as possible to catch them as early as possible. So I think
with those 12 students, trying to get them back on track and doing as best we can with future classes.
Mr. Baldus, there was one question submitted late, was with the IEP students. What's significant? Is there different strategies you take with the IEP students? Is that something case managers are alerted to?
Yeah, case managers do actively check grades every week. Many of these students that we do have are in our study skills program who actually are expected to check their own grades in Skyward, send emails to parents, to their case manager, to their teachers about where they need to get more help or where they can find opportunities to meet with them before and after school. Part of the IEP process too is to make sure and ensure that they're getting their accommodations and modifications within their courses that they are enrolled in here at RB. And then to really look at our problem-solving meetings, that when we have students that come up with grades that are concerning, we go into a little deeper dive. Our school psychologists are included, the case managers, office social workers are in that process of what's really getting into the reasons you cannot get them beyond track when it comes to their grades.
Is there a chance that the other 12 students, the students that are non-IEP students, through child finder, they could eventually lead to, or by now they're mostly?
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, they're not that extreme when I look at them closely. Because, it's not that significant. So, but we are monitoring. So I take these students' names and then we continue to monitor them on a separate list. So they are closely monitored by their counselors to ensure that they are I have multiple sort of at-risk lists. So they are continue to be monitored through their sophomore year and further if needed.
Thank you. This was very comprehensive. Any questions or comments? I'm not seeing any from my colleagues here. Anything? Thank you.
I will tackle performance indicator 4, which is the college and career readiness as measured by the PSAT and SAT. So the class of 2024 data, I always preface this report by reminding everyone that when we look at these specific numbers for this report, we're looking at students who began with us from the placement exam entering in 9th grade and then stayed with us through their junior year. There's been some questions in the past about why teasing out the transfer students is part of that practice. And we look at this in terms of a student that's with us for 3 years up until and through their junior year is receiving the full spectrum of the curriculum and instruction that we offer here at RB, as well as those supports. So it's really kind of like the ideal conditions. Of course, our students who transfer in, regardless of when they transfer in, whether it's their freshman year or a month before they sit for their exam in their junior year, those students are always counted amongst the students who are eligible for our services and supports based on the data that we routinely collect throughout the year. If you take a look at this report, I look at 4 different kind of subcategories under the performance indicator. So this first figure is the percent of students who met benchmark in ERW and math on the SAT when they took that test their junior year. So you're looking at 342 students who had test scores on file with us from that entry point as incoming freshmen through their junior year. So of those 342 students, 72% of them met or exceeded benchmark in English, reading, writing, and 57% of them met or exceeded benchmark in math. Those are both slight dips from the previous year. As you can see, we have the 5-year picture there for you. As figure 2 indicates, these are students who did not meet benchmark, but they did meet expected growth. So SAT publishes what expected growth is for a student during their particular time with us. So that expected growth PSAT 8 to SAT and ERW is 90 points of growth, and the expected growth for math, PSAT 8 to SAT is 100 points of growth. So you can see that in this particular chart, I take the students who did not meet benchmark but did meet that expected growth. So 16% of the 96 students who did not meet benchmark in ERW met their growth target, and 24% or 36 of the 148 students who did not meet in math did meet their growth target. That feeds in then to the third figure, which just combines those two charts. So when we look at the total cohort of test takers, 342 students, 76% of those students either met their benchmark or they met their growth. And in math, 67% of those 342 test takers either met benchmark or exceeded it, and or met or exceeded the math expected growth. So then that all, we look at sort of those students who did not make it in either capacity. They did not meet their growth and they did not meet benchmark. So when we're looking at that figure, we had 24% in ERW of our students that took the test either not meeting that benchmark or not meeting their growth, and 33% was that number in math. When you look at those figures, you're going to notice a dip year over year. So we see kind of students meeting or exceeding benchmark or meeting or exceeding growth dropping a bit, and an increase in those students who did not meet either of those two markers. It's important to note, because it is such a significant variable, that last year was the first year that we did an online version of the SAT. So we're talking about a really drastic change from the previous year for students to be in a non-paper pencil testing environment. There's not necessarily something that I can say directly, this is the why, but I can say that kind of categorically you are seeing across the country at least some considerable impact to those scores that we have to at least consider it as a variable. When you look at really the data in its totality, there's some key takeaways. The first, I think, is really important to note that when you look at the average growth for the entire cohort of test takers, the average growth for students that have been with us for 3 years is 89 points of growth, so 1 point off that recommended growth from SAT of 90, and in math our average for the entire cohort is 95 points of growth. So in terms of where students are expected to grow, you are seeing our students come very close to hitting that average. We teased out then looking at the actual student population of those students who did not meet or exceed benchmark and did not meet or exceed growth target in both areas. So when I look at the 81 students who met neither of those markers in ERW, we can just take a look down, kind of down the gamut of who are these students. We can see about half and half-ish identified as male or female. 17 of them have IEPs, and then we can go through all of the demographic markers that go into the student self-reporting who they are when they test. So this is where we're looking at the achievement gap. This is where we're looking at who are we not reaching? Who are those students? What is their makeup as a student? What is happening in terms of their learning needs, whether or not they have IEPs, whether or not they have language needs, and then to kind of piggyback on what Beth mentioned when she was talking about freshmen on track, one of the things we're looking at is, are these students here? And when you look at the percentage of students who were chronically absent being missing 18 or more school days, 28 students in English, or 35% of those students who did not meet either target, were missing more than 18 days. Now, when I look at their attendance record, that's anywhere from maybe they're missing 18 and a half days to some of them are missing 60 days. So there's a very wide range of of what that is. And we tease that down further so we can see, are there trends in who's coming to school and who's not coming to school, and are there things that we need to consider from that demographic lens. We look at the same kind of drill down in math, and you can see a similar story. Again, this is the achievement gap that we're tracking, and what we know. Research says there's 4 ways that you close an achievement gap, really 4 proven ways that you do it. One is teaching through standards, one is maintaining a challenging curriculum, one, and this is the tough one, is more time in the instruction and with the students. That's where the intervention comes in, but again, it's difficult when you have a third of those students who aren't here. And the last is teacher efficacy. Teachers feeling as though they have the tools and the expertise to address the needs that students have. And you will see all 4 of those kind of represented, all 4 of those proven methods for addressing the achievement gap. You'll see those represented in our action steps. As if education isn't difficult enough, Illinois threw us the wrench in May that we were switching to the ACT. So built into that decision is the need to provide teachers with professional development and build up that teacher efficacy as it relates to ACT, college and career readiness standards, as well as the piece about standards. We are engaging in a full-scale review of our curricular standards against the college and career readiness standards for ACT, taking a look at where do we see this skill first introduce itself in our curriculum? Where do we see that skill being built through levels of curriculum? Where do we see gaps potentially in our instruction? So those 4 items are woven into those action steps that you will see below. We are kind of looking at some steps that are beyond what we might normally take in a normal year with ACT coming back. We have to engage science again in a very different way to help prepare students to really be able to conduct the data analysis and review that comes along with an ACT science assessment. And one of the things that we are exploring as an option is, do we revert back to our previous science sequence of starting all freshmen at biology? Currently, as an intervention, those students who go into reading are in earth science, and that is an opportunity for them to build up some of those skills in which they are deficit. So we are, and when I say we, I'm talking administration along with myself and Ms. Mina, who is the division head for STEM. We are currently engaging the science department in what does that look like? What and the science department's big concern, very valid concern, is if we don't have this intervention for freshmen at that science level, what is the intervention that we replace it with? Because we don't want to pull it back and not have anything to replace it with. So that's something that we're exploring as a potential option.
So quick question, Ms. Lindquist, I'm sorry. And because I think that ACT transition is it is such a wrench. I thought from our prior discussion that we were going to still administer SAT and ACT.
Yes.
So we'll be able to have continuity of
just this year.
Just
this year.
Yes.
Okay, maybe I didn't.
So we'll
I didn't
allow
hear that
our
part.
current juniors, because there's something to be said for kind of focusing in one vein your entire freshman, your entire sophomore year. And then in the junior year, kind of pulling the rug out from under you. So we're giving the juniors this year the opportunity to take both. They have to take the ACT. We're also going to administer an SAT. So one of the things that we kind of are juggling is we are trying to support students in the state mandated assessment, but we're also trying to support students on the trajectory that they have been following, because that might be what's best suited for them in their college plans. That's been their focus. So we've been looking to provide concordance between ACT and SAT. What does this translate to as a student?
That's what I was going to try. I mean, even
yes.
if we want to take a snapshot, look at data this time next year.
Yes,
it's going to be a mess.
Absolutely,
Okay.
it just could look very different because you have juniors whose priority might not be the state assessment. It might be their own plans as they move forward.
Mr. Baldas, you want to touch real quick on the IEP students, at what you're doing or how you're working with the division heads?
Yes, so many of these students that are possibly not making progress in ERW or math are typically identified with specific learning disabilities or other significant identified needs that are going to require them to have a co-taught class, maybe self-contained courses that are taught at their instructional level. Typically, when they do take the SAT, that there's going to be a minimal growth with that, but it's more basing their growth on their IEP goals that are directly tied to their cognitive growth when it comes to we use STAR often in our goals for our students with IEPs. They do take courses, they, again, like I mentioned earlier, the study skills class, which is really where maybe some of the reteaching might happen for typically in math. We do have a para-educator that was a former accountant that does a lot of work with our students in the study skills program to help with their math and their math abilities.
So, Kylie, with all the tools, the new tools you've had this year, and your department, everything's really been doing a lot, ramping up. Would you say that the growth you saw or the progress you saw is what you were expecting, or were there kind of surprises where some tools didn't work as well as you thought they might work? In that journey that you took this year, what were some of the, oh, I didn't expect that, or oh, wow, we got more than we thought we'd get?
I think that when I looked at the data and I saw the dip specifically from year over year, and that data is going to look even a little bit more, that dip is going to look even more impactful when you see the school report card because the transfer students play into that. I think that was a bit of a, I was a little like, oh, like I think all of us, the division, I think we were all a little taken aback by that, and it took us a minute to kind of stop and say, okay, let's get the initial shock out of it because we do feel like we're on this roll and we're moving and we're doing all of these great things and we're putting these things in place. And so for us, it was a moment to take a pause and talk about, okay, what are the things that we can control? We can control the audit of our courses and make sure that we are addressing the right skills. We can control the way that we identify students and the way that we step in and intervene when they need us to intervene. So I think it was a more significant dip than we expected, but I think that there isn't a lot of time to even consider that because we're pivoting right away and we're going into the ACT, and so the energy and the focus has to be there, and so we take what we learn from an examination, right, about which students are falling behind and how do we address that. We take that information and we kind of weave it authentically into the new work that we're doing to meet kind of the new demands of the state.
I know your departments have restructured a little bit. Has that helped your journey moving forward and pushing?
I can't say enough about the impact that the division heads have on curriculum and instruction, having the time to be in classrooms, to be working with specific teachers, to really sit around a table and problem solve what interventions would look best. And the 4 people that we have in that role are all very solution focused, so they are not people who are going to identify a problem and then just say, oh, that stinks, we got this problem. There are people that are going to sit around the table with whoever is there willing to participate with us and really try to look for the solutions. Also with our teacher leaders, we're engaging our teacher leaders. I know one of the conversations between myself and the superintendent and with the board as well has been looking at the courses that we offer, looking at our curriculum guide, really examining the curriculum guide through an equity lens as well as an achievement gap lens. And so we're engaging the totality of that leadership, so not just the division heads, but the teacher leaders as well, to really sit with our curriculum and say, do we have what we need to address the needs of our students based on this data that we're seeing? And that is work that in a silo would be incredibly difficult, but with the professionals that we have and the leaders that we have working with us, I would say it makes a world of difference.
Yes.
When are you planning, we haven't really got into this, the board would all enjoy to hear from the division heads at least once a semester again, so we should think about when we want to put those together.
Okay.
I was just going to add one quick thing also about the ACT and the SAT. We're hearing more and more from colleges that there's been such a test optional for students, and now there is a shift. I'm shaking her head that test scores are going to be on the rise as part of admission again. And so I think the fact that RB is going to give our juniors the opportunity to take the SAT, I think is great, because not knowing what that ACT is going to look like, and that we really tested and prepped our kids for the SAT, I think it's great. So I think the colleges are going to have a lot of weight in that SAT when they're looking at admission for next year for our rising seniors. So.
Any more questions?
Did you have some? I'm looking at the data, and I truly appreciate the way that it's broken out. I'm going to go to something I asked from Mr. Mannon about the disciplinary data before. It's meaningful here, but without it in the context of the total populations that we are looking at with each, it looks right now like we're severely underserving Hispanics, and that could very well be true. But without the background of, we have 43 identifying Hispanic students that are not meeting or meeting growth or the benchmark. It's 53% saying they're Hispanic. That isn't good, but I want to know, what is that number in comparison to our total population of Hispanic students? So it's 53%, but of our Hispanic students, how many are making it? And that's just one. It could be broken down. It's going to give us a better understanding of where we're actually lacking versus what looks bad.
Got it.
And I want to know, is that really where it is, or is our population in different levels that it's skewing what we're seeing here?
So you want to see it in proportional to the total.
And I can only do it. I can't explain what I want to see.
I think I know what you mean.
I want to see the number of, okay, we have 43 Hispanic students who are not making it in ERW. And so in that category, how many of our Hispanic students are making it? So what's the percentage that are of Hispanics that are not?
Yes.
And then that goes for every category. I'm just using that one because it's so high. And then the same in the math is, if we have a 100%, or let's say a 75% population of Hispanics, that number doesn't look bad.
Right.
But if it's 25% population of Hispanics, we're really, really underserving.
Yes.
And so I just want to know where we are in terms, and of course these are numbers that we could all know by looking at the website. I should, but just to get a better sense of where we're hitting or missing.
Lindsay, if you're watching at home, I'm going to need your help with that data. Okay, we got it.
And if you want me to ramble on far longer about what I mean, I'm happy to.
I think I got you.
assist.
I think I got you, and that makes perfect sense to me. Yes.
And graduation cohort?
Yeah, moving on. Okay, the last performance indicator. So graduation rate is up 0.9% from last year. 94.6 is what the state will see us as on the state report card, with 22 students considered as non-grads. But actually 15 of those 22 are special education students, with 13 of the 15 meeting graduation requirements, but returning this year for transition services. And 2 of the 15 are considered class of 2024 grads and came back for transition services, but they entered as ESY students. So that means on the books, they started our summer program, and that means they start the cohort before. We've called the state many times on this, but it's just meaning that they enter our system in the class before, and they count against us.
Since they're in our school before July 1st, they count towards the previous cohort of students.
Even though they're not officially freshmen until August.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
So this was 4 years ago.
It's
happened.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it just means that they were
5
counting
years
them the year
Mhm.
before. So we really only had 7 students that didn't officially graduate, making our graduation rate 98.2%, which is the highest graduation rate we have had in quite a long time. And then giving you the breakdown. And last year, the board asked me to give you the demographics of those students that did not graduate, so I provided that, similar to the freshmen on track demographics. And then
I guess as Ryan's question stands for across the board for this report, right? Yeah.
And then I also was asked to provide the board with the freshmen on track of that graduating, of that class. So back in the fall of 2021, there were 18 students who were considered not on track at that time, and then listed are the demographics. So while unfortunately, 7 students did not graduate, 11 did. So, there's something to be said of bringing 11 along to graduate. And so I think that's interesting data to continue to sort of track, and seeing who those students were along the way.
So I just want to make sure I understand that. So of the non-graduating students, 7 of them have been identified as freshmen not on track.
Well, back in 2021, we had 18 students not on track. And by the time they graduated in 2024, only 7 of those were not on track still.
Only 7 of those, there were 18 students.
It's the same individual students.
Those are the same.
That's what I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah,
Okay.
So that's the same class of students.
Okay.
And so if we're tracking who wouldn't, at the time, we were looking like potentially we were not going to have 18 of our kids not graduate. And
I think to clarify Deanna's question is, were the 7 part of the original 18?
actually, 5 of them were.
Okay. I think it kind of goes to some of the discussion we've had about the, freshmen on track, how meaningful or not meaningful it is as a metric.
Yeah.
Well, that works out almost perfectly because it's a 3-to-1, and 5 of 7 is almost right at that.
Right. So it is keeping track of, and I forgot who asked the question, but like in monitoring those same students, so in keeping those lists, who are those kids we're keeping track, and
Speaks to those interventions that we provided after that first year, the next 3 years, to get them to finish and graduate with their class when they were probably not going to.
Right.
If they weren't.
Yeah, so.
And of those 5, were those the same students that you were talking about?
That didn't graduate.
The kind of excessive absences.
Yes.
And other issues.
Yes.
Okay.
Beth, you want to speak real quick to the clearinghouse data for the class of 23? I know we're going to be always a class behind.
Yes, and I'm hopeful as soon as I get that 2024 data, I will provide this exact same information. So I provided some demographics of information of students that we really sort of don't have reporting on. I don't have like some where they've landed. In looking at names and speaking to counselors, these are at-risk kids, kids that want to work, kind of still figuring things out. So in 2-year colleges, looking at approximately, roughly 128 students moving to 2-year schools. I actually dug a little deeper, about 190 of our students going on to 4-year colleges, which is roughly about 49%. Looked back at multiple report cards, that's pretty consistent, around 33% 2-year, 49, 47 4-year, that's pretty consistent with what our students are doing, where they're going with 2- and 4-year schools. Then listing out in ranking order of where our students are attending, and then listing sort of the ties. They were really just kind of dead even, so I wanted to list where our students were going. And interestingly, so I was pulling this information from SchoolLink. So this is our 2nd year in using it, and I know Dr. Skinkus and Ryan both attended this conference at Triton's DVR, and it's fascinating how much information we're going to be able to pull from it, but that's where I was pulling this clearinghouse data. And so if students mark like a privacy indicator, they're going to show up in the clearinghouse, but I'm not going to get where they're going. If they've indicated, if they don't give accurate information, they're going to show up in clearinghouse, but I'm not going to get to know where they're going. Because there were a couple of students' names where I'm like, I know these kids are in college, but they're not showing up. So we had to do some investigative reporting, and I had students call like their parents and find out exactly where they were at, so we could get some like really to know, make sure our data was a little more accurate. But then there's more reports that we're going to be getting from the clearinghouse, so, and I'll be happy to share that. But as soon as I get 2024, I will break this down and share that with the board. According to my rep from School Links, I could have that as early as 2 to 3 weeks.
And Illinois State was listed twice there.
Oh.
I'm assuming that was just an error.
Yes.
Okay.
It was. Bad eyes.
Didn't mean to. I saw it, I was curious,
Yeah.
I didn't think it
And
meant
then
anything.
as far as our action steps to maintain graduation rate, I mean, I think we have just a really good system with student services, the dean's office, with curriculum instruction, teachers, continuing to build on MTSS, child find with special education, and just kind of continue to do what we're doing right now.
Thank you all. This was actually, I think, the most comprehensive version of this.
Thank you
Questions?
so much. This is great. I think it gives us a really good. It's not perfect, obviously. Thank you for calling kids who. I did not intend for you all to do that, but I think it gives us a really good overview of where we are. How we can help students, like if these are the top 10 schools, are we ensuring that all of these campuses come to visit, right? Because if this is where our students are going, what kind of relationships are we building with them? What kind of scholarship offers are they going to offer our students? What kind of college tours do we have leverage on? Because if a lot of our kids go to Urbana, that's really good to know. So I think that this just gives us a really good, it's just good to know.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
Yeah, and we used to report, like this used to be something I reported on prior to these goals. So yeah, absolutely, it's
very comprehensive.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, everybody. Good job tonight.
Were there any more
Thank
comments?
you.
I just want to make sure no one had any additional
thank you.
comments. Okay, yeah, no, thank you. This was very
You're
good.
welcome.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, visitor statements. I'm assuming we have some individuals here for visitor comment this evening. Let me do a quick prelude if someone wants to come up to the table.
We're skipping district goals.
Oh, I apologize. I thought district goals were for information purposes.
Okay.
Did you,
We
was
can
there
do-
any?
Yeah, there was 2 updates.
Okay. Can you do a 30-second version?
Yep, 30-second version on the district goals is the action step for number 4 under finance. The board asked for us to add that, so that's the curriculum guide work that will be done. And then Dr. Freitas, you had 2 updates.
I did, honorable board members, and I'm excited our new district website is live. The website is more vibrant, more accessible, more user-friendly. And I really want to say that we engage our stakeholders. We engage parents, we engage students, we engage you all. So this was truly a collaborative process. I'm really excited, right? It's like a fresh coat of paint, right, to a wall. So it's been outstanding. And then lastly, under the district goals document, our 2024-25 equity action plan has been hyperlinked for the board to review as its pleasure, and the equity action plan will be formally reviewed in November. Those are my 2 updates.
Thank you. No, I apologize for skipping over that. I had November in the back of my head when we were next going to do a deep dive on that. Is that okay if everyone to move forward? We're good? Okay, thank you. Give me 1 second to read the introductory paragraph. The Board of Education welcomes and encourages the participation of its citizens in the business of the school district. There are 2 points in the meeting where visitor statements are scheduled. Citizens are welcome to raise questions or make comments at either one. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per individual and cannot be combined. Please note the Board of Education will not answer questions or engage in dialogue during visitor comments. If a person would like additional time to address the board, such a request should be submitted in writing 48 hours before the meeting to the superintendent.
Hi. Thank you. I'm Maggie White, living in Riverside, am on the board for music and theater sponsors. Our year is off to a phenomenal start. We've got just a great and very engaged group of parents stepping up to do a lot of things. I know our kids are very excited to have participated in the pep rally. They're looking forward to the Veterans Day performing, at that event. I also just wanted to thank Dr. Skinkis, Dr. Freitas, Mr. Mann, Ms. Lindquist, and Ms. Fletcher for really helping us at various points to ramp up and do what we needed to do to, do our membership drives and things like that. So thank you for your support. The only other thing I wanted to say is that music and theater sponsors, knowing that the election for school board is coming up, we're very excited to host forums at any point for our members, for candidates who want to come and provide their vision for the district. Let's see what I wanted to say this specifically. We're excited to host a BOE forum where candidates can share their vision and priorities for the district with our parents and other members of the community. We're hoping to identify board members who highly value the fine arts as part of a well-rounded education. So anyone running on the next term, you know how to get in touch with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is anyone additional here for comment this evening? Please come to the table if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, sorry. I was just shocked at...
And just introduce yourself.
Oh, Mark Parslow. Sorry, I'm a parent of a student here. I was just shocked at how much our valuation has increased, the property valuation. And I said 42%, but it's actually closer to 60. But I looked it up, and it's since 2018, it's 56% on average for commercial property. I just find that, I still find it shocking, but just wanted to apologize for outbursting earlier. So,
thank you.
Thank you for paying attention to the numbers. I appreciate that.
Still 60%.
That's a lot. Right.
Wow.
Any additional comments? No? Okay. Moving on to additional discussion items. Anyone from the Board of Ed care to bring up an additional discussion item for this evening? Seeing none, old business, solar panels. I think we had an update earlier, but Dr. Skinkis.
Yeah, Dr. Skinkis, is there anything you want to point out here, or is this just a placeholder for now?
I updated the board packet with the draft first read of the contract that we received from the company. Our legal counsel had several changes that they are requesting. So it's a very lengthy document, as well as a number of changes that we're requesting. If it's not ready on October 8th, I would at that point probably ask the board to approve it pending a final review by legal counsel. But
you didn't provide a red line. That's nothing we need to be concerned about.
No. It's that one. I didn't have the red line at the time. I had to submit the board packet. So this is just the initial contract that we received from the company. So now it's the back and forth process.
Dr. Smetana and I went through this a little bit. Would the board prefer, do we just keep this in there as a placeholder? Do you want to see the original? This is really moot because it's going to get changed significantly once the two lawyers go back and forth on some things. So would the board prefer to see a red line version? If we don't have the red line version like tonight, do you still want just the original, just to have it as a placeholder?
But do we not have the original in our board books?
That's what's here.
Yeah, but I mean, in our board books, we also have a place for other documents that just live there for reference. I don't think we need to keep...
this would have to stay under an agenda item. It couldn't just... So what I'm saying to you, I guess, is...
At what point do we want to see
Kristen
a
put
version?
the original in just so that you could see there was an original contract.
Right.
what you're going to be voting on is not going to look anything like this in the next 2 to 4 weeks.
So you don't think we need originals that reference?
I'm
that's what
asking,
saying.
I'm polling the board right now is what I'm doing. Because
I guess I'd
like you asked for the red line.
Right. No, and I wasn't asking for the red line. I was just commenting when Dr. Smetana said there were significant legal comments. I hadn't read a red line, so I didn't realize that.
Yeah, we
My,
received
my,
one.
my preference is just to say it's still under legal review because
not have the
I'm not
witness in
going
there.
to. I mean, I think historically we've gotten, you know, if there's outstanding issues that need to be, you know, discussed or presented to the board, I would say you'll bring that if there's an indemnification matter or something, right? I'm not sure we're in a position to do the compare and contrast to the original submission and the final.
No, I think you're right. The red line that's the evolution of the original, because we'll never go back to the original once you start making changes.
The red line allows you to see where changes are made.
Right.
That's-
And we'll
what
never
I'm-
go
so-
back,
So
right.
I just want to clarify then, so us putting this original in is no need to do this.
No.
Moving forward, just have a placeholder saying that we're in the midst of legal counsel.
Correct.
Kristen can put in October the red line version so you can see what was corrected and agreed upon.
Right.
Okay.
I think the only exception, it's not an exception, would be if it's a first read, second read, I still want to see the final contract, first read, second read. I'm thinking about different matters. This is about a draft and a final.
So
I
next
don't
week-
care about the
Next week,
draft.
we're looking to approve, you're looking to approve it in the first meeting of October or by the second meeting of October?
Ideally the first.
Right.
So the first
Okay.
thing they would
So
see
we
is the
made
red
it
line
draft.
version.
Okay. I'm okay with that because we discussed it
Okay.
extensively previously. Is everyone else okay with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's why I put
As
the
long as-
original in there because I wasn't sure if I.
as long as we see a red line and not just a new contract that doesn't show red line.
Right.
You know,
Okay.
so that
Dr.
I know
Smetana, you
what-
good?
Yep.
Okay. We are not taking action on Press Plus tonight, are we?
Nope.
No. And you're meeting with that group in the near business?
In October?
No new business this evening. Visitor statements, anyone else? Second opportunity. Seeing none, no discussion items requested. Does anyone on the board have a matter for consideration at a future meeting? Seeing none, matters for closed session. We have appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body. We have student discipline, individual student matters, purchase, sale, or lease of real property, probable imminent or pending litigation, collective negotiations, and school safety matters.
The Board of Education, Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois, enters closed session for the purpose of considering the closed session matters as presented in the September 24, 2024 Board Agenda Packet.
Second.
Second from Mr. Van Horst, and we do need a roll call, please.
Ms. Gasko?
Yes.
Ms. Ruska?
Yes.
Mr. Novak?
Yes.
Mr. Gunn?
Yes.
And Ms. Salis?
Yes. Okay, thank you, everyone. 10 minutes downstairs.